The battlefield was quiet now. Smoke drifted across the broken plains of Corrin's Rift. Once, it had been a stronghold of the alien empire known as the Zevran Court. Now, it was dust and metal. Ships were wrecked, towers had fallen, and silence had replaced the screams of war. Commander Tom stood near the edge of the ruins, his armored boots pressing against cracked stone. He was tired. His face was dirty, his arm still bleeding from a blade wound. But his eyes stayed sharp. The humans had won, and with that victory came the ceremony of choosing a prize from the defeated. It was an old custom, meant to show power and respect. Each commander from Earth's fleet was allowed to take something from the Zevran treasury, or royal court. Some took gold discs made of rare ore. Others picked weapons made with strange alien tech. One captain chose a beast with 4 heads, locked in a cage of steel. But when Tom was called forward, he walked past the weapons, the riches, and the beasts. He stopped at a small stasis chamber, placed to the side, almost forgotten. Inside the glass chamber floated a girl. She had pale violet skin, her hair long and silver, and her eyes closed. She was wearing a soft robe that had once been royal, but was now stained with dust. Her name was written on the panel, in the alien language, but Tom had studied their words enough to read it. Alira, princess of the Zevran court. A general beside him laughed and said, "That one is useless. She's been locked in that pod since the war began. Weak and quiet. Couldn't fight a battle even in her dreams." Tom looked closer. Her face was calm, but not afraid. Her hands were still, but there was no sign of panic or despair. Something about her made him pause. "I'll take her," Tom said. The laughter stopped. The high officer in charge raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure, Commander? You may choose again." "I already have," Tom replied. He tapped the panel, and the chamber hissed. The stasis field dropped. Alira opened her eyes slowly. Her gaze landed on Tom, calm and clear. She didn't flinch. She didn't speak. But she saw him, not like an enemy, not like a savior, just a man. They brought her aboard the Valiant, Tom's warship. She walked beside him, her hands bound only by light cuffs, more for show than control. She moved quietly, without protest. The crew stared. Many whispered, "That's the Zevran princess. She looks like a shadow. Why would he bring her here? She can't even stand straight." Alira said nothing. Tom gave her a small room near the medbay. It was simple. A cot, a sink, a small screen for translation practice. He didn't lock the door. He posted no guards. He left water, food, and a blanket for 2 days. She didn't speak. She sat on the cot, staring at the wall. The ship moved through space, leaving behind the ashes of her people. She was the last daughter of a fallen court. Her empire was gone, and now she belonged to a human ship, chosen like a tool or a trophy. But Tom didn't treat her like that. He didn't shout orders or ask her questions she didn't want to answer. He checked in each day, sometimes just to place a data tablet near her bed. The tablets held language guides, star maps, and news from both human and alien worlds. On the 3rd day, she finally spoke, only one word. "Why?" Tom paused at the door. She was sitting straight now, hands folded. Her voice was soft but firm. "Why did you choose me?" Tom thought for a moment before answering. "Because you weren't afraid." Alira blinked. "I've seen soldiers twice your size beg for mercy." Tom continued. "You didn't cry. You didn't scream. You just looked at me like you already knew who I was." "I did not," she said. "Then what were you thinking?" Alira looked down. "That I would survive." In the weeks that followed, things began to change. Alira started using the translation screen more often. She read human history and starship design. Files. She watched training videos on tactics. One morning, when Tom brought her a fresh tablet, she asked a question. "What is this maneuver called?" she said, pointing at a ship diagram. Tom was surprised. "That's a flanking sweep, used to trap enemy cruisers from behind." She nodded once and studied it again. Soon, her questions became daily. She asked about fuel routes, communications codes, even crew ranks. She watched drills from the control deck. Quiet but focused, Tom's second officer, a tall woman named Mira, was the first to notice. "She's not just curious," Mira said one night. "She's learning like a commander." Tom nodded. "She was trained once, probably hidden away to keep her safe." "She's dangerous," Mira said. Tom looked out the window. "Good." One evening, Alira stood at the deck beside Tom, watching the stars. Her eyes glowed faintly in the light of the console. "My people will not forgive me," she said. "For surviving?" he asked. "For learning your ways." Tom crossed his arms. "Survival is not weakness, and learning is strength." She turned to face him. "You saw something in me that I had forgotten. Thank you." Tom shook his head. "Just doing what felt right." Alira smiled. It was the first time she had. But peace doesn't last in deep space. Far from the core systems, ships were gathering, raiders, rebels, enemies who had once served the Zevran throne. They had heard the news. The last princess was alive, on a human warship, and they were coming to finish what the war had started. The lights on the bridge were dim, running on night cycle. Most of the crew was asleep, and only a few officers remained at their stations. Commander Tom stood near the wide window, watching the stars. The silence of space always helped him think. Behind him, soft footsteps echoed. Alira walked in slowly, wearing a plain gray uniform made for her size. Her silver hair was tied back, and her eyes were sharp. She no longer looked like a prisoner or a lost princess. She looked like someone with a purpose. "I have a question," she said, her voice quiet but clear. Tom turned to face her. "Go ahead." She held a tablet in her hand. "If an enemy fleet breaks formation near a gas giant, and you cut their forward escape route, what would be your next move?" Tom raised an eyebrow. "You trap them against the gravity field. Use the planet's pull to disable their engines. Then you force a surrender." Alira nodded. "I thought the same." She walked to the window beside him and stared out at the dark. Her fingers tapped lightly against the screen. "Human tactics are fast, focused, not like the Zevran way." Tom leaned back against the railing. "What was the Zevran way?" Alira looked at him. "We studied patterns. We waited. We set traps over weeks. But it cost us speed. It cost us battles." Tom crossed his arms. "And now, I want to learn more," she said. Over the next few days, Alira became a regular face on the command deck. She watched each station, listened to the crew, and practiced human language. She spoke in short, direct sentences. Some crew members stayed nervous around her, but others began to respect her quiet strength. She spent hours in the war room, reviewing old battles. She played human simulations and always asked for feedback. One evening, Tom found her alone in the tactics room, sitting on the floor with a dozen tablets spread around her. She was building a fleet layout using small pieces and markers. "Looks like a battle plan." Tom said. Ira looked up. "It is. I copied your last maneuver against the Pirates of Drenfor. Then I made a change." She pushed a few pieces aside and shifted others into a tighter formation. "Your rear line was slow. I replaced it with faster ships. Then I moved your flank closer to strike in 4 minutes instead of 7. Tom studied the layout. He let out a slow breath. "That would work. You just cut my mission time by half." Alira stood up. "I learned quickly." Soon, the crew stopped calling her the alien girl. They started calling her Alira. Mira, the second officer, began asking Alira to sit in on strategy meetings. At first, she only observed, but after a while, she began offering suggestions. When a supply mission faced resistance on the edge of human space, it was Alira who proposed a safer route through a nebula. The new path saved the fleet from ambush. The news spread fast. Other captains asked Tom if she was available for consultation. He refused. "She's with us," he said. "She's not a tool to pass around." One day, a message arrived from a human outpost on the planet Varine 3. The station had been destroyed. Only wreckage remained. A human freighter sent the report before losing contact. Tom stared at the screen, his jaw tight. "Who did this?" Mira asked. Ira stepped forward. "I know." She tapped the console and pulled up a symbol, a black spiral with 3 silver blades. This belongs to the Varnuk Raiders. They once served my father's court. After the Empire fell, they took ships and turned rogue. Mira frowned. You're sure? They follow no code, Alira said, but they hate my bloodline. They would destroy any place that offered me shelter. Tom narrowed his eyes. They're hunting you. Alira nodded. And anyone who protects me. The Valiant changed course. They headed toward a nearby repair station to refuel and warn others. As they moved through the void, Alira spent more time in the command seat beside Tom. She no longer needed translation help. Her voice was calm and confident. She wore a simple command suit now, black with a silver band at the shoulder. Her rank was not official, but the crew followed her lead. They trusted her. But danger came faster than expected. 3 days later, alarms screamed through the ship. A fleet of small raider crafts dropped out of warp, blocking the route ahead. The Varnuk Raiders had found them. The ships were fast and chaotic, diving toward the Valiant with wild speed. Lasers burned across the hull. Shields dropped to 70%. The crew scrambled to return fire. Tom took the command seat. Hold formation. Return fire on the center ships. Alira stood beside him. She watched the enemy pattern with narrowed eyes. Then she stepped forward. Commander, they're using distraction tactics. They want us to follow the fast ones. The real threat is circling from behind. Tom checked the radar. A second group was moving around the rear flank. How do we stop them? He asked. Split the fighters? Move them wide? Force the raiders to close in. When they form a cluster, use the iron burst. It will disable their controls. Tom looked at her. That's risky. She held his gaze. So it's doing nothing. He nodded once. Do it? Alira gave the orders. The fighters peeled off, flying in wide loops. The raiders followed, eager for easy kills. But the wide turns forced them into a tight group. Just as planned, Tom activated the iron burst. A blue pulse shot through the darkness. It spread like a wave, passing through the enemy ships. Sparks burst, engines failed. The raiders began spinning, their weapons dying. The remaining enemies retreated. Cheers rose across the bridge. We did it, Mira said. Alira stood still, her face calm. No, we survived. That's not the same. After the battle, the crew looked at Alira differently. They didn't see a quiet alien girl anymore. They saw a commander. Tom walked beside her in the hall. You saved the ship today. Alira gave a small nod. I did what was needed. Tom stopped. Why do you keep helping us? She looked at him. Because you chose me. Not as a trophy, but as someone worth saving. He smiled. You were never weak. You just needed someone to see. If Alira looked ahead, her eyes full of light, now others will see it too. The stars outside the command window looked calm, but something felt wrong. Tom stood near the main console, his eyes focused on the long-range scanner. The Valiant had been on a quiet supply run, heading toward a neutral trading post near the edge of Sector 9. It was supposed to be safe. No warnings, no enemy signals. But Alira stood beside him, her fingers tapping slowly on the glass screen. Her eyes narrowed. This path is not safe, she said. Mira looked over. No pirate activity has been reported here for weeks. Even the scouts said it was clear. Alira shook her head. That is why it feels like a trap. Tom trusted her instincts. Ever since the last attack by the Varnuk Raiders, she had studied their movements, their hiding places, and their timing. She had learned to think like them, and more than once, her warnings had saved them. He nodded. Slow us down. Activate silent drive. Send probes ahead. The crew followed the command without question. The ship slowed. The engines dimmed. Probes shot ahead into the dark. For 10 long minutes, they waited. Nothing showed. No ships. No power signatures. No sign of life. Then the first probe disappeared. Tom leaned forward. What was that? Signal lost, Mira said. The second probe vanished seconds later. Then the third. They're jamming us, Alira said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp. They're hiding behind the asteroid belt, waiting for us to pass. Tom stood straight. How many ships? Alira touched the screen and drew quick shapes. At least 6. Light interceptors. Fast, but weak armor. Same raiders? Tom asked. No. Alira replied. These are not Varnuk. These are Zevran loyalists. The air on the bridge grew tense. Mira turned. Your own people? Alira nodded. They do not want me alive. If they cannot rule the old empire, they will burn what remains, including me. Tom stepped back. Battle stations, raised shields, ready all weapons. The alarm rang out across the ship. As the Valiant approached the asteroid belt, the ambush began. Enemy ships burst from behind the rocks, firing beams and missiles. The shields held for now, but the blast shook the hull. The crew worked fast, launching counterfire. Alira stood beside Tom, reading each movement. They're spreading out, trying to surround us. Tom gave orders. Split our turrets, fire in 3 groups, keep moving. But the enemy was fast. Their ships darted between rocks, firing from blind angles. 2 of the Valiant's side turrets went down. A missile struck near the cargo bay. Fire breach, Mira called out. Alira grabbed the side console. Redirect oxygen from lower decks. Seal Section 5. The crew obeyed. Tom turned to her. Any ideas? Alira stared at the map. Yes. We cannot fight them head-on. But the asteroids are unstable. If we hit the right one, the debris will trap them. Tom smiled. Collapse the field. Alira nodded. Exactly. He looked at the weapons officer. Target the base of that large rock cluster. Fire all plasma rounds. The Valiant shook again. The enemy tried to dodge, but they didn't expect the sudden shift in plan. The plasma blast struck the base of the asteroid group. A chain reaction began. Huge chunks of rock cracked and rolled, crashing into the path of the enemy ships. 3 enemy fighters were crushed. 2 others lost control and crashed into debris. The last turned and fled. Silence returned after the battle. The crew worked quickly to repair the damage. The fire was out. The ship's shields were down to 30%, but the core systems were safe. Tom stood in the hallway outside the medbay. His arm was bruised from the shaking, but he was more concerned about something else. Alira sat inside, looking at her own hands. There was a cut across her palm from falling during the attack. Tom walked in slowly. Let me see that. She held out her hand. He cleaned the wound gently, wrapping it with care. You were right again, he said. They were waiting for us. Alira looked at him. They will not stop. I'm a threat to them now. You were always a threat, Tom said. They just didn't know it yet. She looked down. I used to wonder if choosing me was a mistake. I was weak, quiet, lost. Tom stood. You were never a mistake. You're the reason we're still alive. Later that night, the crew gathered in the main hall. Even with the damage, there was a feeling of pride in the air. They had survived another attack. And once again, Alira's mind had turned defeat into victory. Mira raised her cup. To the one who sees what others miss, to Alira. The crew cheered. Alira stood slowly. She looked around the room. Faces once filled with doubt now showed respect. I am not your leader, she said, but I will fight beside you, not to bring back an empire, but to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Tom stood beside her. Then let's build something better than what came before. In the days that followed, more messages came. Some ships responded to Alira's survival with threats. Others sent words of hope. A few asked to speak with her directly. Old captains, traitors, even defectors from the Zevran court, they had heard the stories. About the princess who walked among humans. About the girl who once sat in silence and now gave commands. They called her a symbol. They called her a chance for change. Alira didn't ask for their loyalty, but she offered something else, a new voice, a new future. And slowly, across the galaxy, people began to listen. The ship hung quietly above the pale moon of Tellus. The stars stretched across the sky like a river of light. Below them was a forgotten base, once used during the Old War. Now buried in dust and silence, the Valiant floated near it, watching. Listening. Inside the command room, Alira stood in front of a holotable, her eyes scanning reports from across the sectors. Small colonies, abandoned stations, and wandering ships had started to send messages to her. They were short, simple words. We heard your name, we heard you survived, we want to know what comes next. Stepped beside her, holding a cup of hot tea. He placed it on the table and looked at the growing list of messages. They're listening now, he said. Alira gave a soft nod. They are watching, but they still wait. They don't trust. They hope, but hope alone is not enough, she said. They need something real. Tom leaned closer. What do you want to give them? Alira turned to the holo display and brought up a symbol. A broken circle with 3 stars rising through it. The image had no colors yet. It was just a shape. I want to give them this, she said. A banner for the forgotten. For humans and aliens who lost everything. Something new. Something they can follow. Tom looked at the symbol. A new flag. Yes, not for an empire. Not for conquest. For unity. That day, Alira sent her first broadcast. It was simple and clear. She spoke in 3 languages: Zevran, Human Standard, and Neutral Trade Speech. I'm Alira, daughter of a fallen court. I do not seek a throne. I do not seek revenge. I seek to build something new. For all who were left behind. For those without a name or shield. Come to tell us. Bring what you can. We will not beg. We will not steal. We will build. Her voice echoed across systems. It was carried by traders, smugglers, old satellites, and passing ships. Some ignored it. Some laughed at it, but others packed their things and changed course within 5 days. The sky above Tellus began to change. Ships of every kind arrived. Rusted cargo haulers, small fighters, broken patrol cruisers. Many barely worked. Some were held together with scrap and tape. But they came. Tom stood at the window and counted more than 20 in one day. She did it, Mira said quietly. She really did it. On the surface of the moon, the crew of the Valiant set up a temporary base. The old station was repaired. Power was restored. Hangars were cleaned. Dust was pushed away by tired hands and determined hearts. Alira worked beside the others. She carried crates. She helped program defense systems. She didn't act like a ruler. She acted like one of them, that won the people faster than any speech could. Tom watched as she walked across the open landing yard, helping a young engineer fix a broken landing gear. The engineer was from a mining colony, thin and nervous. But when Alira knelt beside him and handed him a tool, his eyes lit up. By evening, more volunteers came to help. Inside the old command bunker, a meeting took place. Leaders of small ships and old crews stood round the table. They were of different kinds: human, Zevran, others who had no homeworld. Some had fought in the war. Some had lost families. All had stories. Alira stood at the front. You have come far, she said. You do not follow me. You stand beside me. If we build this, it will be for all of us. An old captain named Brent spoke. And if someone comes to take it from us, Alira looked at him without fear. Then we defend it together. Tom placed a small case on the table. Inside was the new flag. Now it had colors. Silver stars rising from a deep blue background, surrounded by a broken gold ring. Alira held it up. This is not a flag of power. It is a flag of survival. They call it the Broken Banner. The first test came sooner than expected. A mercenary group from the Outer Belt received word of the gathering. They thought it would be easy prey, a scattered group of old ships and weak captains. They sent a message ahead. Surrender your base, we take your supplies, you walk away. Olivia Lyra stood on the platform and read the message aloud. The people around her grew quiet. Some looked afraid. Tom stood beside her. We can fight, but we need a solid plan. Alira nodded. We won't wait for them to come. We will show them what unity looks like. That night, under the cover of the moon's shadow, Alira led a small team aboard a stolen shuttle. They approached the enemy camp where the mercenaries were resting, preparing for attack. Alira's plan was simple. Hit fast, create confusion. Target the command ship. Tom, Mira, and a few skilled pilots joined her. The shuttle entered quietly. No alarms triggered. They landed near the edge and moved through the rocks inside the enemy shipyard. They planted signal disruptors and low-level charges, just enough to blind their sensors for a few minutes. Then they struck. Explosions shook the field. The enemy ran in every direction. Ships tried to lift off but hit each other in panic. In the middle of the chaos, Alira's team stormed the main ship. They took control fast. Tom stood on the deck and sent a message, "Leave now, or we shut your engines forever." The mercenaries ran. By sunrise, the base on Tellus was safe. The broken banner still waved from the tower. People cheered. Some cried. Others stood in silence, unable to believe what had happened. Alira didn't ask for thanks. She stood on the landing pad and looked up at the stars. More would come, stronger enemies. But now they had a place, a purpose, and a name. The galaxy had forgotten them. Now it would remember. The stars above Nova Forge burned red with tension. Dozens of ships floated near the edge of the system. Some were damaged, others unfinished. But all were preparing for war. Deep inside the asteroid field, Nova Forge waited like a sleeping giant. It was the largest shipyard left in this part of the galaxy. If taken, it could produce hundreds of warships. If destroyed, all hope of defending the broken banner's cause would fall apart. Tom stood at the edge of the command deck, staring at the live map. His face was serious. Lights blinked across the screen, marking enemy fleets. He didn't like what he saw. "They're already in position," Mira said beside him. "For heavy cruisers, it's a dozen fast strikers. They're blocking every way into the forge." Tom nodded. "They want to end us before we grow stronger." Alira stepped forward. She wore a new command suit now, simple but strong. A silver emblem of the broken banner rested near her shoulder. Her eyes studied the enemy movements like a puzzle. "They came fast," she said. "Someone told them we were coming." Tom looked at her. "You think we were betrayed, maybe, or maybe we've grown enough to scare them." Alira walked to the center table. She placed a small data card into the slot, and a new map formed in the air. It showed more than just enemy positions. It showed fuel levels, field strength, heat patterns, and mining routes across the asteroid belt. "I have a plan," she said. The room grew quiet. Everyone listened. Nova Forge was not just a factory. It was also a maze of rock and steel. The asteroids around it held old mining tunnels, half-broken scaffolding, and deep energy pockets. Most commanders would avoid those routes because they were risky and unstable. Alira saw opportunity. "We split our forces into three," she said. "One group creates a fake attack on the front line. The second hides in the lower belt, waiting. The third, my team, will go through the old mining tunnels." Tom looked surprised. "Those tunnels haven't been used in years." Alira answered, "Exactly. No one expects us to come through there." Mira frowned. "It's dangerous." Alira nodded. "It is. But it's our only chance." The next day, the ships moved into position. The enemy had no idea what was coming. At the edge of the system, the first fleet charged. Lasers fired. Missiles flew. The enemy turned to face the threat, focusing all weapons forward. That was the signal. From the lower belt, the second group launched, striking the enemy's side. Chaos followed. Some enemy ships turned. Some hesitated. That was when Alira's team entered the tunnels. The mining paths were tight and dark. Their ship moved slowly through twisting turns and falling rocks. One wrong move could end everything. The crew sat in silence, watching the scanners. Tom sat beside Alira. He watched her face as she led them. "You're sure this will work?" he asked. She looked ahead. "I'm not sure, but I believe in it." He nodded. "So do I." They came out of the tunnel behind the main shipyard. No guards, no defense, no traps. The enemy had focused everything on the front. Alira gave the order. Now, their ship fired a signal that called in support fighters hiding nearby. Within minutes, 5 light crafts joined them. Together, they stormed the dock, landed on the upper deck, and began moving toward the control tower. Enemy troops scrambled to respond, but it was too late. Alira and her squad moved through the halls. Using speed and surprise, she carried a plasma staff, one hand steady, eyes clear. She didn't rush. She didn't panic. Tom covered her from the side. Mira followed with 2 engineers ready to take the station. Blasts echoed through the metal walls. Shouts rose, then silence. Alira stepped into the command room. The enemy commander stood at the back, wounded but still ready to fight. He looked at her and growled, "You think this place will save you?" Alira walked forward. "No, but it will help save others." She didn't attack first, but when he charged, she ended the fight in 5 quick moves. Then she turned to the console. "Lock the system. Bring full control to our fleet." The engineers worked fast. Within minutes, Nova Forge belonged to the broken banner. The enemy realized too late what had happened. Their main force tried to retreat, but Tom's fleet cut them off. Some surrendered. Others were destroyed. When the dust cleared, the sky above Nova Forge was quiet again. But now it held new ships, ships built by the hands of the forgotten, ships flying the banner of unity. On the main deck, Alira looked up at the half-finished cruiser that hovered in the dock. "We'll call it the Starfire," she said. Tom smiled. A fitting name. News of the battle spread fast across nearby systems. People listened to the story of the girl who had once been silent, now leading fleets. They heard of the trap, the tunnels, and the bold strike that changed everything. More ships came. More captains offered help. Some brought fuel. Others brought food. Many brought nothing but hands ready to work. Alira welcomed all of them. She stood on a platform above the station and spoke to the growing crowd. "Years ago, I was a symbol of a broken court, a name tied to failure. But I stand here now, not alone. I stand with you. You chose to fight not for gold or power, but for a future." She held up the flag of the broken banner. "This is our star. This is our fire. And we are not done." The crowd cheered. Mira turned to Tom. "She's more than a commander now." Tom nodded. "She's becoming a legend." In the quiet after the cheers, Alira stood alone at the edge of the dock. Tom walked over and joined her. "You did it," he said. Alira shook her head. "We did it." He looked at her. "What's next?" Alira stared out at the stars. "We build more. We protect more. And we show the galaxy that the weak can rise, that the broken can fight." Tom smiled, and that a human choosing a forgotten girl can change everything. She looked at him. Double quotes, "Yes, everything." The moon of Vexor hung dark and cold in space. Its surface was scarred with old battle craters and forgotten bases. The broken banner's fleet had come here to rest and resupply. For many, it was a chance to breathe after months of constant fighting. Ira stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching the quiet surface below. The stars reflected in her eyes. Beside her, Tom paced with a heavy heart. "We have no enemies here," Tom said. "Or at least, we thought so." Mira joined them, her face serious. "New reports came in this morning. The human fleet command is moving a squadron toward us, but they don't want to join. They want to arrest you." Alira's eyes widened. "Arrest me? For what?" Tom shook his head. "They say you broke protocol, that you're a threat to peace, that your alliance with the aliens is dangerous." Alira clenched her fists. "We fight to protect, not to threaten." Mira looked away. "It doesn't matter what you say. Orders come from above." The fleet went on alert. The calm moon turned into a battlefield. One night, as most of the crew rested, alarms screamed. The hangar doors locked automatically. The hull shook from explosions. An attack. But it was not from outsiders. It was a trap. Tom's voice came through the comm. "All hands, battle stations, intruders on board." Alira rushed to the bridge. Heart pounding. The scanners showed enemy ships surrounding the valiant human ships. Betrayal. They came fast, firing and boarding. Explosions rocked the ship as the enemy forced their way inside. Alira grabbed her plasma staff and ran toward the upper decks. She wasn't ready to surrender. Tom was at her side. "We have to hold them until reinforcements arrive. Then, we fight," she said. The corridors were chaos. The enemy soldiers pushed forward, but the crew of the Valiant fought back fiercely. Alira moved with grace and strength. Her staff crackled with energy as she deflected attacks and protected her friends. She found herself cornered near the command room. The soldiers blocked her path. She took a deep breath and stepped forward. Before they could react, she spun, striking with precision. Both fell behind her. A sudden explosion knocked her off balance. Pain shot through her side. She fell to the floor. But her mind stayed clear. Tom reached her quickly. "You're hurt." "I am fine," she said through gritted teeth. The fight continued for hours. Outside, ships clashed in space. Inside, the crew held the line. But the betrayal cut deep. This was not a war between enemies. It was a war between those who wanted change and those who wanted control. Alira and Tom fought side by side, refusing to give up. At one point, Tom was forced to leave her behind as he chased a group of enemies. The pain in his heart was heavy, but Alira refused to be left with the last of her strength. She crawled toward the emergency elevator. She pressed the call button and hoped. The elevator doors opened. Tom was there, helping her inside. "We leave now," he said. The ship rocked violently. They held on. As the elevator descended, they heard footsteps behind them. Enemy soldiers. Tom pushed the emergency button. The elevator dropped faster. The doors closed just before the soldiers reached them. They reached the lower decks and ran through maintenance tunnels. Smoke filled the air. The sounds of battle faded behind them. Alira leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "Thank you," she whispered. Tom smiled. "We saved each other." Outside, the reinforcements arrived, allied ships loyal to the broken banner joined the fight and pushed the traitors back. The betrayal was exposed. The leaders who sent the attack were arrested. The human command changed after the battle. Alira's wounds were treated. She recovered slowly but stayed strong. The crew rallied behind her more than ever. The betrayal had made them closer. Alira stood before the crew and said, "We will face enemies outside and inside, but we will not fall, because we fight together for freedom, for hope." Tom watched her and knew she had become more than a leader. She was a symbol of what humanity and courage could do. The dawn light spilled across the surface of Tellus, casting a soft glow over the rebuilt base. Ships moved steadily in the hangars, workers repaired equipment, and new faces arrived every hour. The broken banner was no longer a name whispered in fear or doubt. It was a promise. Alira stood on the balcony overlooking the scene. Her silver hair caught the morning breeze. Her eyes held the strength of all who had come before her, and the hope of those who would follow. Beside her, Tom watched quietly. "We've come far," he said. Alira nodded. "But this is just the beginning." In the months since the betrayal at Vexor Moon, the broken banner had grown into a true force. More ships joined. More colonies reached out. The story of a fragile princess turned leader inspired many. The galaxy had begun to listen. Alira spent her days training commanders, building alliances, and planning missions. Her voice was steady, her commands clear. She was no longer the silent girl in a stasis pod. She was a beacon. One morning, she received a message from an old Zevran official. He asked for peace talks. Alira smiled. The galaxy wants to heal. But peace was not simple. Not everyone welcomed the broken banner. Powerful factions still fought for control. Pirates, warlords, and old enemies lurked in the shadows. They saw Alira and her forces as a threat to their power. One day, a call came from the outer colonies. A new enemy was rising, mercenaries armed with advanced weapons, attacking without mercy. The broken banner had to act fast. Alira and Tom prepared the fleet. The plan was bold. They would strike first, showing that the broken banner was not weak. The new enemy did not know what waited for them. The battle was fierce. Ships clashed in a dance of light and shadow. Alira commanded from the bridge, calm and focused. Her orders turned the tide. Fighters moved like shadows, striking with precision. When the dust settled, the mercenaries retreated, broken and defeated. The broken banner had won again. Back on Tellus, celebrations filled the halls. But Alira knew this was only one battle in a long war. The galaxy was vast. Challenges awaited. One evening, Tom joined her on the balcony. "Do you ever wonder how it all began?" he asked. Alira smiled. "Yes, a fragile princess, a human who saw more than weakness. Together, we built something new." Tom nodded. "A new dawn. Alira turned to the stars. The broken banner is not just a flag. It is a promise to fight for those without a voice, to protect the weak, to stand united. Tom placed a hand on her shoulder. You gave hope where there was none. Alira looked at him, and you gave me a chance. Together, they watched the stars. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The broken banner would shine. End of the story.